claims that her child was decapitated while she was giving birth at Southern Regional Medical Center in Riverdale last month. The doctor allegedly pulled on the baby's body for hours during the labor process. In Florida, Orange Osceola State Attorney, African-American Monique Worrell, is neglecting her duties. That's what Governor Ron DeSantis said yesterday in announcing his suspension of Worrell. He claims she's not faithfully prosecuting crimes in her jurisdiction and that the people of Central Florida deserve to have a state attorney who won't allow violent criminals to roam the streets. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America, N.A. Copyright 2023.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers get a shutout at Arizona last night to win their fifth straight. Right-hander Bobby Miller kept Arizona off the scoreboard for 6 innings before the bullpen took over in the seventh. The Dodgers are back home tonight against Colorado. The Rams rank third among NFL franchises in net value. If you want to buy the Rams from owner Stan Kroenke, it will cost you $6.94 billion. Rounding out the top five, the New York Giants at $7.04 billion, New England at $6.7 billion, and the 49ers at $6.15 billion. The Chargers are at number 18 at $4.63 billion. LeBron James' son Bryce has changed his mind about going to Campbell High School in Studio City. The 6'6" junior is planning to transfer to Sherman Oaks, Notre Dame. One of the guards in Sherman Oaks is a guy named Mercy Miller, son of rapper Master P. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
First things first.
Things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule. 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the map. Where your ancestors' favorite radio station. First Black on Talk Radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique the Prima go way back. Travis Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted Black and Brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the move. So we tune in. First things first with the Queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique the Prima. Go sis.
Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DePrima. This show is called First Things First, and my first thing every day, giving thanks, giving praise, asking for blessings from the Most High, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and getting us started. Rise, shine, stretch, and move. Let's do this. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to do. We got to talk the talk and walk the walk like we're on a mission. Hour 1, we look local. Hour 2, we go national, international, and beyond. Hour 3, we do a deep dive. Conversation on an issue or a person of importance, and that is exactly what we're doing today. Actually, my partner in politics will only be for the second half of this hour. I'll be talking with Fatima Iqbal-Zubair and looking at what we do about corporate emissions, really in the spotlight these days, especially with the conversation about banning those gas ovens here in Southern California. And in the third hour, we'll hear from Black Girl Productions. The piece is Love Letters to the Black Man. And we'll be joined by award-winning playwright Shanisha Dobson. So that's coming up today, and you are also coming up today. If you want to be, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. That's how you know you're in unapologetically progressive, optimistic, democratic, transparent kind of space, fact-based, evidence-based, all are welcome, that kind of thing. I talk to you if you're on the right, the left, you're not sure where, you're veering, you're swerving. If you're over there with Cornell and the Green Party, over there with Biden and the Democratic Party, and if you're in the Dixiecrat Party, a.k.a. the GOP, all are welcome, 800-920-1580. We're not scared, and we're not folks that exclude. Now, you're not going to get that on the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of stations that are not black-owned, that are talk radio in this country. You're going to get a closed door. You think Hannity's going to let you talk to him on his show? The odds are very small. You think O'Reilly's going to take your call? Maybe. Highly unlikely. If they do, as soon as they hear your progressive leanings or your black scent, they're probably going to screen you right on out. Not around here. All are welcome. 800-920-1580. 800-920-1580. I missed two things yesterday that I really wanted to touch on, and I guess, I'm still getting acclimated coming back from the tribute, the memorial to my mom, and there's just always a lot going on around here. But Whitney Houston would have been 60 yesterday, Miles, and I want to definitely play a little bit of her music today. Leo vibes, Leo season. There's another Leo around here. I love Leos. Y'all are never boring. Miles' birthday is Friday. That's what I'm talking about. Miles is a Leo. My mom, my brother, my grandma, Whitney Houston. Leo season is a beautiful time. My girl Shirley Strawberry. All the Leos doing their thing. So, happy birthday, Whitney Houston. A sad ending, but a huge, towering talent who will never, ever be forgotten. And one of the great things to come out of Newark, New Jersey, aside from my dad, my East Coast family, my brother Raz Baraka, Queen Latifah, Newark produces a lot of amazing talent. It's quite a unique city. The other thing that I wanted to point out was that the anniversary of the discovery of the body of Mitrice Richardson, and that, though it was found in a ravine in Malibu after she was jailed for failing to pay a restaurant tab and a tiny, tiny bit of cannabis, even though the restaurant called her grandma was willing to pay over the phone, but they took her into custody. Never seen alive again. And to me, that is not something we will ever forget. I know that's true because it's not just Jasmine Canick that constantly remembers Mitrice Richardson. Many in the community are always calling about this. This was in 2009. But I'll never forget the day that then Sheriff Lee Baca, now formerly incarcerated person, Lee Baca, said that we may never know what happened to her. He announced that at the press conference right after they found her. Like, why would you say that? To me, that seems so suspicious. We're still discovering what happened to people that were murdered in the in the 50s when there's discoveries, there's DNA, there's new evidence. So why would he say, we may never know what happened to Mitrice Richardson? Rest in peace, Mitrice Richardson. You will not be forgotten by this radio host and this microphone right here. And then, of course, also happening Friday is the anniversary of the Watts Uprising and the murder of Ezell Ford over here in South L.A. by police, somebody who was suffering from mental health issues, who was killed by LAPD here in Los Angeles. So I say his name and I don't forget. And, I try to uplift us as much as I can, but I don't want to forget. I never want to forget. And there are so many names that it is hard to keep up with everything, but when we can, we must say their names. I think that's part of what we do that makes this job and makes this job for me more important is how do we celebrate the people and issues we want to celebrate and uplift those who need to never be forgotten, especially during Black August when we advocate for the freedom of political prisoners in this country and study and learn about such as that. Got a lot to talk about, a lot going on locally, nationally, and I'd love to hear what you think is important. 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. District Attorney has decided that they will not bring charges in that dust-up between Kevin De Leon and Jason Reedy, a local community activist. No charges on either side. The district attorney decided to move on. This happened in December 9th. De Leon makes a big statement about how he was disappointed that the DA didn't file charges against Reedy and makes all these unfounded allegations. To me, if you look at the tape, it was a heated argument, but the first person to jump on another person was Kevin De Leon. Clearly, he assaulted Reedy. If you look at the tape, he's choking him out down onto a table. The council member claims that Reedy was stalking people, but I'm sure by stalking he means protesting. He says a city attorney. I see. These are city charges. I don't know why the DA couldn't bring charges, but I guess it's because they would be misdemeanors. I don't know. Well, what do I expect from this particular city attorney? But could county charges be brought? I'll have to ask Attorney Person Lynn when he comes back. Because to me, that would be one of the greatest things that we could have happen to stop Kevin De Leon from the racist and disgraced city council member from serving out the rest of his term and or filing for re-election, which I'm assuming he will do. He seems to have been on a mission to rehabilitate his image. And by rehabilitate his image, I mean he's kind of on a Donald Trump track, fanning the flames of anti-blackness in order to stoke the fears that are present among some elements of the Latina community, mostly newer arrivals who have less interaction and understanding of the dynamic between African Americans and others in this country, stoking the flames of anti-blackness to try to get reelected, which could be a successful strategy. It's like the Southern California version of the Southern strategy in black and brown. And, some criminal charges would certainly throw a monkey wrench in that, not coming from the city attorney's office, though. And Reedy, for his part, said, he wished that they would have charged De Leon, but it is what it is, right? city attorney's office not talking to the press. So I guess the opinion of the city attorney is that it's okay for a sitting city council member to attack a member of the public if they talk enough smack to make them angry. De Leon claims he was headbutted. It looks like they were leaning into each other. Their heads may have barely touched for a moment before De Leon tried to choke Reedy out. I'm not loving that precedent. The fast food workers who managed to pass some protections that were then stymied by the fast food industry taking them to court. It is a story we hear over and over again. May have a reprieve. I'll tell you about that when we come forward. A reprieve beyond the ballot box. For that, they'll have to wait till the next election. We'll talk about that and more when we come forward. An LAPD officer has been arrested for stealing. That and more when we continue on KBLA Talk 1580.
More First Things First with Dominique DePrimo when we come forward.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay. Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Venus for Pubic Hair and Skin is here with the only razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area, featuring a razor with a patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Visit GilletteVenus.com to learn more about our full regimen of products.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, bro?
Are you looking to steer your career in a new direction? Driving for the Culver City Bus can be your ticket to a long-lasting career with excellent benefits and paid training. Culver City Bus is looking for customer service and safety-minded bus operators to join the growing team. Culver City Bus offers on-the-job paid training, uniform allowance, and health benefits. Culver City Bus are now even putting their money in your pocket with a one-time $2,500 sign-on bonus. Let us connect you with an essential service job. If you enjoy driving, seek real opportunities for career advancement, and passionate about making a difference in your community, then we invite you to join the team. Start your journey by submitting an application at culvercity.org/job. For more information, visit culvercitybus.com or call the live customer service operator at 310-253-6500. Again, 350-253-6500.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrimo right now.
Strikes upon the hour and the sun begins to fade. Still enough time to figure out how to take my blues away. I'm gonna ride up till now. It's the light of day that shows me
Rest in peace, Whitney. KBLA Talk 1580. Really probably one of the best voices ever, I think. I mean, it's hard to imagine too many people that can sing better than that. 800-920-1580 if you want to talk about things. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Yeah, there's a lot going on everywhere. So an LAPD officer was arrested for stealing at least one debit card. That happened on Tuesday. A felony warrant for burglary and theft of a debit card was served on Officer Edmund Bababians, who is in the Custody Services Division that operates LA jails. Apparently, this guy, Internal Affairs started investigating after somebody contacted the LAPD saying that their debit card was missing. And she said she had it inside of a police department building and then later noticed that there were some unauthorized transactions. Well, what happens is there is videotape of the person using the card. Because, there's cameras everywhere now. Forget the body cam. It's the 7-Eleven cam and the Nordstrom's cam and your neighbor's doorbell cam. There's cameras everywhere. So apparently the victim got photos of the person buying stuff on her debit card at some home improvement store, sent the pictures to LAPD, and the LAPD identified the person. And they arrested them, obviously. And Chief Moore said, that the allegations are troubling. There has to be accountability. And the Mayor Karen Bass, put out a statement saying that our police officers have to be held accountable to the highest standard. She thanks Chief Moore for taking action swiftly. Okay. And, of course, you don't want a police officer stealing your ATM card. And who knows how many other times this has happened. This is the time this person got busted. Now there's another crazy cop crime story. LAPD former commander Nicole Maringer, was actually found drunk in a police car. It wasn't was like an undercover police car. It wasn't marked. She was with a male subordinate who she was having an affair with, allegedly. Okay, maybe it's not allegedly, but she. Anyway, the chief of police spoke out against it. That this was Charlie Beck at that time. Spoke out against it. Her and her Boothing were apparently both drunk, and they both faced criminal charges concerning being drunk in a police car. But now Maringer is suing, former commander is suing, because she says that the LAPD has a double standard when it comes to these type of charges. Drunk and disorderly, fooling around with somebody who is your inferior in terms of rank in the department. She says, and she names names, that when men do this stuff, they get it, they got to keep their jobs. When women do it, it's all bad. And in her particular case, she was fired, and her Boothing, Sergeant James Kelly, kept his job. So she's saying that, she's suing to get her job back. While she says, look, I know this is against department policy. This happens with male command staff all the time, including Chief Moore, who was supposedly drinking in Vegas one time, and he claims there was no merit to that, but there was a complaint. Obviously, he kept his job. He's still the chief of police, and she names a bunch of other folks. Part of this, and Moore says, no, there's no double standard, that no one is allowed to practice sexually inappropriate behavior or drunkenness on the job. If they're an LAPD officer, Chief Moore says he can't go into details because he can't talk about individual discipline, but he says that there's no difference. He says the LAP does not have a culture of drunkenness and sleazy, inappropriate relationships. I mean, I think any organization that large is going to have some instances of this. I certainly have read about them over the years. She names names. And what I think is interesting is if she does get her job back, how's she going to function in a department after pointing the finger at Chief, for example, Chief Jorge Villegas, who she says had a sexual relationship with one female subordinate and maybe others, and they were caught having sex on tape in a parking lot, and he was allowed to retire with honor, keep his pension, all that good stuff. She says he was also pulled over for drunk driving. She names a bunch of people. And, it's not a good look for the LAPD. They're trying to recruit people. People are retiring. I think some of what happens, I certainly have heard this from my colleagues and friends in San Francisco, and we've seen it in other jurisdictions, including here in LA. I've had at least one person call about this where LAPD or sheriffs, other law enforcement are angry because of the Black Lives Matter movement, because of this idea of care first, cops last, of moving budget money around, i.e. Measure J, which was just upheld by the courts, to focus on other things, right, to spend on other things. It's not a defunding of the police. The police budgets have stayed the same and in many cases have increased. But it's the crybaby cop syndrome where they don't want to do their job to punish you for not wanting them to kill you with no consequences. In any case, my question is, I think it's great that they quickly respond to drunkenness or somebody stealing an ATM card, but why is that more serious than someone being gunned down and killed? Why is that more serious than an officer-involved shooting? Why does that merit swift action when what we hear over and over again in police killings is, we have to have an investigation. A really, really long investigation, by the way. LA Progressive is reporting that the fast food workers, after passing their worker protection bill last year and then having it, the Assembly Bill 257, and then having it stopped in its tracks by the fast food industry, taking them to court, that they may have some reprieve, and this is also the Chamber of Commerce and the California Restaurant Association right behind this, that now we are reviving a board here in California called the Industrial Welfare Commission that may be able to help those workers in the meantime. Industries that have 10% or more of their workers living in poverty are prioritized by this Industrial Welfare Commission, and this is definitely the case for fast food workers. So by reviving this statewide commission, which is going to have representatives from organized labor, from the companies, and from the general public, workers may be able to get some of the protections and wage hikes that they were looking for and that we, the voters, passed last year before this fast food lobby's case slow walks its way through the courts. So this could be a bit of good news, a bit of fresh air, and I hope that it is, because our fast food workers, we discovered during the pandemic, are essential workers, and they deserve to be taken care of as such. Fatima Iqbal-Zubair joins me on the bottom half of this hour after news, traffic, and sports, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
Thank you for joining us on this Thursday morning. It is August 10th. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New Jersey Lieutenant Governor African-American Sheila Oliver is being honored starting today with a 3-day state funeral and memorial service. It's being called a celebration of life, and Governor Phil Murphy says it will honor Oliver's legacy of public service as a changemaker and trailblazer. The 71-year-old Oliver died last week of unknown causes. A new COVID variant is spreading all throughout the United States. EG.5 is causing about 17% of new COVID-19 cases in the nation. The CDC says EG is a spin-off of another strain. This new variant comes just as hospitalizations for COVID is rising in the U.S. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and VINnews.com.
Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America, N.A. Copyright 2023.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers get a shutout at Arizona last night to win their fifth straight. Right-hander Bobby Miller kept Arizona off the scoreboard for 6 innings before the bullpen took over in the 7th. The Dodgers are back home tonight against Colorado. The Rams rank third among NFL franchises in net value. If you want to buy the Rams from owner Stan Kroenke, it will cost you $6.94 billion. Rounding out the top 5, the New York Giants at $7.04 billion, New England at $6.7 billion, and the 49ers at $6.15 billion. The Chargers are at number 18 at $4.63 billion. LeBron James' son Bryce has changed his mind about going to Campbell High School in Studio City. The 6'6" junior is planning to transfer to Sherman Oaks, Notre Dame. One of the guards in Sherman Oaks is a guy named Mercy Miller, son of rapper Master P. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars, working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, and they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage, career-track jobs. The Black Workers Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing around anti-discrimination, learn about union apprenticeship programs, or sign on to a trade registry, please visit www.lablackworkerscenter.org. That's lablackworkerscenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Extreme heat increases your risk of heat illness and death. Warning signs of heat exhaustion include muscle cramps, headache, and nausea. Signs of heat stroke include a fever of 103 or higher, confusion, and loss of consciousness. Protect yourself by limiting time spent outdoors, staying hydrated, and staying cool in air-conditioned spaces. Learn how to stay safer from extreme heat at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it. Together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
I appreciate you, as always, 800-920-1580, the number if you want to join. Right now, though, we're being joined by the EnviroVoters Legislative Affairs Manager. You've met her before, but maybe not in this role. She works with elected leaders and stakeholders in the Capitol to pass transformative climate policy to meet the urgency of the moment. And she lives in a frontline community in South LA. She brings her lived experiences and intersectional advocacy in a frontline community that has struggled with the impacts of environmental racism for far too long. She, became an activist because of her work as a high school science teacher in Watts. Fatima Iqbal-Zubair, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming in. I mean, I feel like what's happening in Maui, these dramatic, terrible incidents just make the climate emergency seem that much more urgent.
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly why I'm really proud of the work we're doing at EnviroVoters. And, want to talk about how sometimes when we're living in South LA, right, we feel the heat. I know me and you have talked about the extreme heat before and being near freeways, but what I'm really excited to talk about is, what are the powers that be that can really control how much heat we feel in the air we breathe?
Yeah, and I know you have legislation to address that, and I think, to me, it makes me sad when I see these impacts that we're living through, but I also think it's a bit of a wake-up call, right? Right now, we're hearing about the possible banning of these gas ovens for corporate. And so many times when we talk about certain corporate entities in California only because of the emissions, so many times when we talk about how do we meet the moment, it's always consumers, you got to use less plastic, and we all want to, but it's really, in my opinion, the corporate habits that will make the biggest impact the most quickly.
Yes, 100%. And, I actually think I'll use the word a myth of the fossil fuel industry and, the powers that want to keep their profits that say that it's our carbon footprint. And you put it really well. Most of the emissions, most of the things like extreme heat and pollution and toxicity is actually related to over actually 5,000 of the corporations doing business here in California, right? We know California, Dominique, I know you talk about this a lot on the show, has a lot of the billionaires, but we have some of the most corporations that want to do business here. And we don't always see their emissions, right? I know you and I have talked about the refineries.
Right, because that's the most obvious, right?
Exactly, but what about a Walmart, an Amazon warehouse, that industry down the street? And we don't even know the depth of the emissions because it's not even what's directly happening at the site. We know in South LA there's trucks going back and forth. There's a supply chain happening. And so why I think this bill, SB 253, is so impactful because we hear about these bills and we're like, how does it relate to me, right? So if you think about when you walk down the street, when you're driving your car, we see a lot of trucks. The 710 has a lot of trucks. There's a lot of corridors going down to the port. We see warehouses, booming in our areas, that industries are just coming in. Why this bill is important is there's no bill of this kind in the nation so far that's actually telling corporations, hey, it's not just what's happening at your site of operation. Your emissions, what you're using to travel, what you're using down, down the supply chain, up the supply chain to make your product, right? it matters, and that should count in our emissions, because honestly, we have no other way of really calculating that or having that transparency right now.
So what you're saying is that, let me make sure I have this right. At this point, we're just judging a business's emissions based on what smoke comes out or what waste literally comes out of that factory or that building. But we should be including the trucks going to and from, whatever's happening along the supply chain to get that plastic bottle or that whatever it is, plastic straw or bag, to the consumer.
100%. Those are called Scope 3 emissions, and here's the crazy part that I didn't know before I worked on this bill. So this is an interesting fact that really blew me out of the water. But those emissions that you talked about, Dominique, are actually about over 11 times more than that smoke coming out of the direct building, right? The emissions that are happening from the movement of the goods, that's not really directed to what the company owns, but is what is required to make the product, is actually more than 11 times more the emissions. So if you think about, okay, how do we actually work on decreasing those emissions? How do we talk about corporate accountability, right? A lot of these corporations, and I'll say especially the private corporations, Dominique, they're not held to the same standards. They're not. And we don't really know the depth of how much they're polluting. And you and I know in South LA, right, where do these industries want to find a home? Where do they have no issues driving through? Which communities? It's not Beverly Hills. It's not communities in Palos Verdes, right? It's communities that experience the intersectional issues of racism, right?
So how do you even track that? To me, that's like, this is maybe simplistic, but that's like saying I'm only responsible for the dog poop that my dog makes in my yard.
Right.
If he's pooping all throughout the neighborhood, that's not my problem because that's not in my yard. Well, we know that's not how it works. But how do you track that? How do you track the trucks and all of the, upstream emissions?
You're right. And sometimes it's interconnected too, right? It's like an ecosystem of pollution, for lack of a better word. So that's a good question. It's actually come up in the legislature from folks that didn't want to support the bill. So it's an excellent question. So what a lot of companies do, something like over 70% of the largest companies actually already track those emissions. The way they do it is there's, sort of data they can use in terms of what is typically the reportable amount for a company this size in terms of goods, right? So we're not requiring, the corporation that contracts with a trucking company or a small business to require them to actually say, okay, we need to the decimal place your emissions. We're saying, okay, for a company this size, what typically would be your Scope 3 emissions if you were to report it? So you can use some of that pre-calculated data, and that's what a lot of, countries that are doing this are doing, and that's what this bill is saying to get there. We want an estimate.
I think you don't ask a math teacher that question apparently.
Exactly.
But I kind of feel I'm asking it kind of for the opposite reason because it seems like how do you hold them responsible for what they're really doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So how do you hold a corporation responsible?
Yeah.
Right. So here's the thing. Right now, there is no way, and that's why we have this bill. Right now, because we don't have something like SB 253, there's actually no corporate accountability or transparency. Here's the thing I love, and I think this is really important to communities, especially like South LA, that don't always get, the best in terms of our infrastructure and pollution and all that. With this bill, if it passes, and it only failed by one vote last year, by the way, so we were very close. What this bill would do is actually say we're going to have a public database, right, that shows you where these emissions are happening. And to answer your question directly, there will be a consequence. So, like if there is a corporation that's not reporting this, so the bill is saying that you use by 2026, the corporation will report their Scope 1 and 2 emissions, which is the ones that are more directly involved in the company. The Scope 3 are the ones you and I are talking about that are the trucks and all of that. They have till 2027. And if they don't meet that deadline and, forthcoming year after year, the state can impose some sort of administrative penalty. And so that's what's going to happen. There's going to be some accountability.
So when you say if they don't meet that, what do they have to meet by 2027?
Right. So they have to be able to use their 2025 data to report the the three classes of emissions. And really, what's most important is those Scope 3 emissions that affect our communities, the trucks, the supply chain, what goods are driving through our community that are leading to diesel pollution and things like that. So that's what they need to report. And it needs to be publicly accessible and available.
Okay, so they have till 2027 to report it.
Right.
I got it.
Right. So they have some time. That was,
yeah, I'm sorry. When do they start reducing it? You're reporting it in 2027.
Yeah.
But I guess the first step is to know what the heck they're doing.
Exactly.
Fatima Iqbal-Zubair is my guest. We'll continue the conversation. I want to know, where we are with this bill and what folks can do if they want to support it. You're listening to
Talk 1580.
You're listening to K-Trip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on.
Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Whether financing is needed to increase working capital, acquire a business, purchase inventory and equipment, or refinance debt, Lendistry has a solution for you. Lending products range from traditional business term loans and non-revolving lines of credit to SBA 7A loans and commercial real estate financing. Lendistry's free application process is simple and does not impact your credit score. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more and to get started with an application right from the website.
Wake up, people. You're optimizing every waking hour of your life. From carpooling kids to work to friends and everything in between. You have to get sleep and a bed that can perform as well as you do. Meet the next generation Sleep Number Smart Bed. It effortlessly adjusts to your shape, position, and movement, learning how you sleep so you learn to sleep better night after night. Sleep next level, only from Sleep Number. It's the biggest sale of the year. Save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition Smart Bed, plus special financing. Ends Monday. See store for details.
When I can't sleep, my mind just races. I think about work, the kids, but I don't think about taking melatonin because I'm afraid I'll feel groggy in the morning.
ZzzQuil Pure Z's Gummies has an optimal dose of melatonin for no next-day grogginess, so you can fall asleep naturally and wake up feeling refreshed. ZzzQuil Pure Z's Gummies for better sleep like never before. And try Pure Z Sleep plus Next Day Energy with melatonin plus extended release B vitamins.
Dominique DePrima, KBLA Talk 1580. One of the most important details of running a business is managing cash flow. In fact, it's key to maintaining your company's health. Putting cash flow management before profits using dedicated software can help you drill down to the details that let you see the bigger picture. Having that clearer outlook makes for a stronger business. Whatever your business's financial goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Initiative can help support you in reaching them. Access your financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? You're listening to unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with Fatima Iqbal-Zubair, who's a Legislative Affairs Director for EnviroVoters. And we're talking about this bill, SB 253, which is, meant to make corporations at least report how much their total pollution is. What did you call it? Scope 3 pollution. Mm-hmm. Not just the obvious, but all of the ancillary emissions that they put forth. And I'm sure, you started out saying 5,000 corporations are in California. Mm-hmm. And I don't care if it's environmental regulation or minimum wage hikes. We're always hearing how corporations are going to leave. They're going to leave California. But we still have 5,000 big ones.
Exactly. It's actually over 5,000. It's crazy, 100%. And they say things like, if you're making it so hard for us, it's going to hurt small businesses, it's going to hurt our profits. This is a waste of time. You're making us do something that's really difficult. How's this even going to help? Right, 100%. But the thing is, it is going to help because if you think about it, if we require our largest corporations who are responsible, right, for the brunt of emissions, so it's not like, we can blame the individual that's, eating too much meat. That's really not how we're going to make a huge, bump in fighting the climate crisis. If we don't know where we're starting, we don't have the data about the emissions, how are we going to know what we're dealing with and how much we need to reduce it, right? I know you and I have talked about how the planet's warming and what that's leading to. How are we going to impact that if we don't know, what emissions are happening? And in terms of the small businesses, this bill is not going to require small businesses to spend, their profits and calculate their emissions. It's going to actually require the corporation to estimate, okay, if you're doing business with this small business or, like I said, this trucking company, what is the basic data that it has been used for this sort of sized business or something, and you can use that business. So it's going to put no impact on the workers, on the owners of those small businesses. And if you hear that, that's just simply a myth, and I know you know that.
Well, yeah, we get into the talking points whenever we get into any kind of legislation or, you run for office, any kind of campaign, get into talking points and out untruths. But, I think that, the fact that Elon Musk did leave California and took his little green car operation, Tesla, to Texas, those are part of the talking points. It's ironic since it's supposed to be a green, a low carbon footprint consumer choice.
Yeah. Well, what I say is I don't feel bad about Elon Musk because he is one of the richest people in the world. And sorry, Elon Musk, but I really don't feel bad that, if you felt like you had to move. What I feel like really matters is, when we have these corporations and have exorbitant profits that are just so out of touch with what regular people are making, they're taking advantage of the community. And I feel like, them wanting to use very, very small part of their money to report this, it's really negligible, right, is the least we can ask because we know that their emissions are affecting communities like South LA the most, right? When you see the goods movement, they're driving through the Black and brown communities. They're driving past where I used to live in South Carson, right by the corridor. And so to me, it's about accountability and transparency from these corporations that choose to do business, especially those Scope 3 emissions. They choose to drive through our communities. We deserve that accountability. To me, it's a way to address, the extreme economic inequality. It's the first step is how do we get these corporations to be accountable? And then I know we didn't start talking about this, but it's related to the politicians as well, right? Because if they are taking the oil money, if they're taking the Walmart money or, whatever corporate money, it's time we say, our health matters more than the profits or, or the money you're getting for your next re-election campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come forward, I want to find out what we can do to support the bill and where this bill actually is right now. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where we are amplifying Black and progressive voices all day long.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build and inform and engage electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
One right,
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
Yep, time flies when you're talking about important stuff. Fatima Iqbal-Zubair, Legislative Affairs Director for EnviroVoters. How can we help with this bill?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So the bill, as I mentioned previously, failed by only one vote in the Assembly last session. So we're really hopeful with the new legislature that it will pass. And where it is right now is that it's in the second house, which is the Assembly, and it's going to be in Appropriations Committee and then go to a floor vote where we need, hopefully as close to 80 of our legislators there voting for it. So how you can help is, I would say, go to our website, EnviroVoters.org, and if you go there, we actually have a whole splash page on SB 253 where it is how you can help. And if you sign up, we'll send you, updates. If you're in a target district where your legislator maybe didn't vote for it or is a new legislator, you'd be able to email them or call them, So definitely go to our website. If you sign up there on our splash page, we'll show you ways that you could help. But, grassroots is how we get this to happen, honestly. So,
although you said this time you have a couple corporations supporting?
Exactly. Thanks for bringing that up. So we actually have Microsoft, Salesforce,
interesting,
huge corporations supporting this. And that's sort of, been our strategy to say that, look, there's a lot of corporations doing this. A lot of corporations want to be transparent and accountable. In fact, some of the largest corporations, like Microsoft, want to see this happen. And that is our hope, that we are, getting Democrats that align with, all the values, right, that can get on board here. And that showing that this is not just good for emissions, but there are corporations that want this too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it always baffles me that more lawmakers and corporations don't. Because if we do not have a livable planet, your product is nothing, your family is nothing, and every other issue is moot.
Exactly, 100%. I think, to your point, I think what I see happening, Dominique, is a lot of corporations think of the short term, right? Or a lot of folks that have money, they want to enjoy what they have right now. But you're absolutely right. What's going to happen to your product? What's going to happen to your employees, kids?
Well, that means you don't give a rat's behind about your children and grandchildren.
Exactly.
It's all about now, me and my yacht.
Exactly. But right.
Well, okay, you got a minute. Okay, do what you want with it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, thank you. So, thanks for having me here. I really appreciate the time. It was a really fun conversation. SB 253, the Climate Corporate Accountability Act, is the name of the bill. Go to our webpage, EnviroVoters.org, and there's a page for SB 253. See how you could support it. And yeah, just want to emphasize, South LA is where I live, and I know this affects you down line. If you have trucks in your community, the air smells bad, if you can't go for walks. So please support SB 253, and I really appreciate you having me here, Dominique. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, and thanks for all the work you do. Not just as an educator and as an activist, but as a person actively working to keep our planet habitable by human life.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
The climate emergency is now. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for joining us on this Thursday morning. It is August 10th. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New Jersey Lieutenant Governor African-American Sheila Oliver is being honored starting today with a 3-day state funeral and memorial service. It's being called a celebration of life, and Governor Phil Murphy says it will honor Oliver's legacy of public service as a change maker and trailblazer. The 71